What's up, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we're talking about something that I genuinely don't think gets enough airtime in the health and wellness space. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while now, you know that we talk a lot on here about what you're eating and how you're exercising, but there's a third layer to health and wellness that I don't think is talked about enough. And frankly, I also believe it's a pillar that is running your hormones into the ground, and most women have no idea that it's actually happening. I did it. And so that's why I want to have this conversation. Today, we're talking about your environment, the world around you, the way that your days are structured, the relationships that you're in, the content that you're consuming, the physical space of your home, of your workplace. Your nervous system does not care that you're eating enough protein or getting your steps in if your environment is keeping you in a constant state of fight or flight. If your environment is triggering low-grade stress, if you are emotionally on edge, if you give yourself zero downtime, these are the things that are keeping your body in survival mode. It's not prioritizing fat loss, or ovulation or digestion. It is trying to protect you. It is in protection mode. It is in survival mode. And today I want to talk about what some of the most common environmental triggers are that I think are very relatable to most high achieving women that I've had to navigate in my own life and in my own journey. And I've shared this on Instagram a little bit. I'm currently going through a detox phase. And part of that detox is very environmental. It's less about, nutrition and exercise as much as it's about what are some of the things in my day-to-day routines and life that are placing an unnecessary burden on my body that I can eliminate or adapt or adjust to be a little bit healthier, or so that I have more capacity internally to be able to operate at the level that I want in my career and overall life. So ultimately, what these 6 environmental triggers come back to is cortisol. So if you've listened to the podcast, cortisol is your primary stress hormone. It is great in short bursts. It's actually essential in short bursts. The problem is that when this cortisol becomes chronically elevated, which means that your nervous system is always stuck in fight or flight mode all day, every day, keeping that cortisol high. And that ultimately triggers a cascade that suppresses your progesterone production, meaning irregular cycles, meaning anxiety, meaning poor quality sleep, meaning disrupted blood sugar regulation, which is affecting your energy and your cravings and your fat storage, and it's tanking your digestion because your body isn't going to prioritize breaking your food down when it thinks that you're in danger and it's in this protection mode. And yeah, it just creates this firestorm of metabolic dysfunction internally. And what really makes this very frustrating, I know for a lot of women, is that your nervous system cannot tell the difference between an actual threat versus a perceived one. It doesn't know the difference between a tiger and, feeling some tension at dinner with your family, or a full inbox that is overwhelming. All that it knows is that these are stressors. All that it assesses is my environment safe or not? And for a lot of the women that I work with, and even what I've experienced in my own journey, the women who are, doing everything right with your food and your training, the answer is that your nervous system is not feeling safe, not fully safe at least, because of your environment. And that's why there's no supplement, there's no macro split, there's no workout protocol that's going to fully recover or heal you, because it's your environment that's constantly signaling this low-grade state of danger or triggering this survival mode. So some of these most common environmental triggers that I see with high-achieving women that need to be addressed is number 1, no separation or transition between work mode and rest mode. This one is very normalized, frankly. Most of my clients don't even register that this is a problem until I point it out. Where, your alarm goes off in the morning before your feet even hit the floor, your phone is in your hand, and you're checking Slack, you're scanning your emails, you're looking at what came through overnight, and now your brain is already running. You haven't eaten, you haven't moved, you haven't even fully woken up for 5 minutes, and your nervous system is already dysregulated. You make your coffee, you open your laptop, you're at your desk or, on the couch, or even still in your bed, and work bleeds into your morning, it bleeds into your evening, it bleeds into when you're supposed to be eating lunch. You're always doing work. You're always answering messages because stopping, pausing feels like falling behind. By 6 or 7 p.m., you close the laptop, maybe, but you don't actually stop. You're on your phone, you're scrolling, you're texting, you're half watching something while still half thinking about the other thing that you didn't finish that you have to do tomorrow. And you get into bed and you're trying to sleep and your brain is still going and you lie there feeling wired and exhausted all at the same time and you can't figure out why because you're so tired. You should be able to sleep, but your body won't come down. It won't downregulate. This is it. This is the trigger. Your nervous system gets a signal, or needs a signal rather, to shift out of this go mode. It's not just this general, like romanticized winding down routine. It needs an actual physical cue that, hey, the workday is over. Your body is allowed to shift into a state of like presence and recovery. Without that signal, it just stays activated. Or dysregulated is probably a better term for that. And when your environment never changes, when you work, when you eat, when you relax, when you sleep, all in the same place on one same device, your brain has no anchor or point for safety or for off. Your bedroom stops being a cue for rest. Your body stops knowing when it's allowed to just let go and prioritize recovery. This is not a problem with discipline or your mindset. It's just how the nervous system works. So you need to start creating a hard transition ritual. Not just a general wind down routine. I know that like feels vague and meaningless to someone like you. You need an actual transition ritual that is physical, that is a deliberate action that happens every time, every day, that signals we are done. You can shut off. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be elaborate, but it does need to be consistent enough for your nervous system to really start to recognize it. So some examples that actually work is like going for a walk outside, even just 10 minutes, where you leave your phone and you leave your phone at home or it's on do not disturb, and you go out and you disconnect and you go for a walk. Maybe it's changing out of your work clothes the moment that you stop working into something else. Maybe it's making a specific drink or meal, a tea, a mocktail, something that's not your third coffee that you can have throughout the evening that signals that like down regulation practice for you. Maybe it's a specific playlist that you play on the way home from work. I always encourage my clients to optimize the time that you spend in the car to and from work to really regulate yourself and shift into the different modes, put on the different hats that you wear. These are different examples of what a transition ritual can look like for you. Now, trigger number 2 is overcommitting and or an inability to protect your time. And I get it. This is probably the hardest one for me. Like, you are proud of your work ethic, and you should be. But there is a version of your work ethic that has stopped being a strength and has started being a stress response. And most women that I work with can't tell the difference. I couldn't tell the difference for a long period of time. You can't tell the difference between the two because your identity is so wrapped up in this. It's so wrapped up in your productivity and your work ethic and your achievement. And so here's the framework that I want you to think about it. Again, I talked about this in a previous podcast, but your body has a capacity. Think of it like a bucket. And every single day, things go into that bucket. Your workday, your workouts, your social obligations, your mental load of planning and deciding and organizing, and the emotional labor of being a good partner and a friend and employee, or a business owner. The cognitive output of being on all day. Every single one of these things is an input to that bucket. And your body can handle a lot of inputs. It is designed to do that. But the part that most women miss is that your capacity must match your inputs. And your capacity is built, that bucket, the capacity of your bucket is built through recovery and sleep, real rest, nourishment, downtime that actually registers as regulation to your nervous system. These are what expand your capacity. And when you are chronically overcommitted, especially at the expense of these tools that expand your capacity, like a lot of women overcommit at the expense of taking care of themselves, you're pouring into a bucket faster than your capacity can handle. And frankly, your capacity is shrinking the less and less and less that you take care of yourself and your body. A body that is running on a full bucket of unprocessed stress does not function in the way that it is supposed to. It does not function the same way that a recovered body does. Your sleep quality changes, your digestion changes, your hormones change, your ability to handle the next day's demands get smaller and smaller and smaller, which is why everything feels harder and harder and harder, especially than it used to, even when nothing has like objectively gotten more difficult. Most overcommitting is not a scheduling problem. It is an identity problem. It is that you cannot say no. The woman who cannot say no has built a version of herself that is defined by what you produce, what you show up to or as, how much you can handle, saying yes to everything to prove that you are capable. Saying no feels like you're shrinking yourself, like you're letting people down, like you're being less than a version of yourself that you worked hard to become. And so you just keep saying yes. You keep adding to the calendar. And you treat recovery from all of this as a reward for enough output rather than as a non-negotiable input for your body to be able to have the capacity to function at the high level of demands that you're asking of it. So what I want to offer you here is that identity is costing you more. The woman who protects her time, her energy, she's not necessarily doing less. She's actually showing up more fully to everything that she does. Boundaries are not walls that make your life smaller. They are the thing that makes a bigger, a healthier, a more sustainable life actually possible for you. Because you can show up as the version of yourself that you want to. This starts with getting honest about why you're saying yes in the first place. It usually isn't because you want to. It's coming from a place of guilt, obligation, the need to prove something, the fear of what people will think if you say no and prioritize yourself. That is the nervous system pattern. It's not a time management problem. Start treating your recovery or your capacity like the best resource that you have. It is a non-negotiable infrastructure. It's not a reward that you have to earn. Okay? That is trigger number 2. Trigger number 3 is people pleasing. People pleasing looks like a personality trait from the outside, being a kind person, an A team player, someone who keeps the peace and makes everyone feel comfortable. And on a high achieving woman, this is hard to identify because it doesn't look like a weakness. It looks like you being professional. It looks like emotional maturity. It looks like being a good friend, a good partner, a good colleague. From the inside, it's exhausting. It's a slow and constant leak on your nervous system. Let me describe what people-pleasing actually looks like for the women that I work with, because I want you to see yourself in this. It's not a generic, just say more version of this conversation. It's a little bit sneakier. So a big example for this is you've worked incredibly hard to build discipline around your health, your training, your nutrition, your habits, but you dim that discipline in social situations because you don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. You order the thing that fits the table, not the thing that fits your goals or your values. You skip the workout when someone needs you and then spend the rest of the day feeling guilty that you skipped it. That is depleting you internally more than I think most women are willing to admit. Another example is like you have opinions. You have strong opinions, but you've learned to soften them, to qualify them, to sometimes shallow them and swallow them entirely because the risk of conflict from those opinions doesn't feel worth it. So you just say, I don't mind when you do mind. You say whatever works for you when you actually have a preference. You perform agreement to keep peace, and the energy that it takes to maintain that performance in your energy is silently depleting your body. Another example would be you make sure that everyone around you is fed, is fine, emotionally, physically, practically, before you ever even take care of yourself. Everyone's needs get registered, get addressed, and yours just get pushed to the side or put on the back burner or on the bottom of the to-do list for later. And later rarely ever comes. Maybe you deflect compliments. You downplay your progress. You've worked hard for something and then minimize it in a conversation because you don't want anyone to feel like you're showing off. So you shrink. Not because you don't believe in yourself, but because making other people uncomfortable has become more uncomfortable than honoring what you've actually built. What all of these have in common is they require you to be constantly walking on eggshells, constantly monitoring how other people are perceiving you, reading the room, editing yourself in real time. And your nervous system is clocking that. It's running that process all day, every day without a break. This is not just like a personality quirk. This is a chronic, low-grade state of stress. And a body that is always monitoring, that is always adjusting, that is always making sure everyone else is okay at the expense of your own, is a body that never feels safe enough to balance itself, to truly be healthy. So I want you to start noticing the gap between what you actually express on the outside and what you actually feel internally. This isn't suggesting that you just blow everything up, but it's really suggesting that you get honest with yourself about where are you performing ease, agreement, smallness that you don't actually want or feel. That gap is where your nervous system is paying the price. The goal is not to become someone who doesn't care about other people. The goal is to become someone who includes herself in the people that you already take care of. That's trigger number 3. Trigger number 4. The remaining 3 or 4-ish get a little bit shorter. Trigger number 4 is feeling emotionally unsafe in close relationships. And this is the trigger that I think is the most undiagnosed driver of a lot of hormonal dysfunction in women. And I don't really say that lightly because this is not a light topic to talk about. But things like, your closest relationships, your partner, your friendships, your family are supposed to be where your nervous system gets to come down and feel safe and seen and not on guard. But for a lot of women, those are the same relationships that are actually a source of chronic low-grade stress. And because the women involved are the people that you love, it goes ignored. And so here's how to know if this is you. You feel relief when plans get canceled. You edit yourself constantly around certain people, softening your opinions, over-explaining, apologizing before you've ever done anything wrong. You can't fully relax in their presence because a part of you is always performing. You leave interactions feeling depleted, where you never fully kind of come down after a conflict. Even when it's technically resolved, your body is still dysregulated. It's still activated. And this one, just like people pleasing, it does require a lot of honesty. Honesty that's genuinely hard. You may need to have conversations that you've been avoiding. You may need to create distance from certain people. You may need to stop performing fine in relationships that are not fine. The nervous system healing that women are chasing through supplements and protocols is often waiting on the other side of you just being radically honest with yourself and building boundaries around the things that are dysregulating you, that you do have a degree of control over. Trigger number 5 is the constant digital noise, the notifications, the emails, the always on communication. Like every notification, ping, unread email that's popping up on your phone is a little micro activation of your stress response. And when those are happening hundreds of times throughout the day, there is no window for your nervous system to actually be clear, be settled, be regulated. And what's particularly insidious is the expectation of immediate availability that most of us have that's just been accepted as normal. Like the idea that you should be reachable at all times and responsive essentially at that time that you get that message. Like you need to respond right away. That answering quickly is, you being professional, or a delayed response, you apologize for. That expectation right there keeps you, again, on this low level rate of stress because you're always on standby all day long and you're never fully able to close down the mentally running program that's draining your battery in the background. Like, I have my phone on Do Not Disturb, and my family hates that I have my phone on Do Not Disturb. But that is a boundary that I need to set for myself. So I'm not getting pings all day, pulling me out of flow. So turn your notifications off, all of them, except, what genuinely requires immediate attention, which is almost nothing. Really be honest with yourself about that. And create designated times to check and respond to emails and messages rather than reacting to them as they're coming in. Have a hard stop on screens at least an hour before bed so that you're not just constantly consuming dopamine right before you're trying to, or while you're trying to down-regulate and reduce stimulation. That stimulation is going to keep your cortisol artificially elevated at the exact time that you're supposed to be dropping it, producing some melatonin so that you can actually fall asleep. So this is a big one. Set those digital boundaries for yourself. Number 6 is similar, but social media consumption and curation. A little bit different. I say this one for last because I think it's the one that we collectively, want to ignore or minimize. And I get it. Social media is where community lives. It's where information lives. It's where a lot of people, run their businesses. Maybe a lot of you listening to this. And I'm not here to tell you to delete Instagram. Obviously, I love Instagram. It has helped me build the life that I have. But I want you to be honest with yourself about what consuming it is actually costing you. The comparison loop is real. Seeing a body that looks different than yours, a life that looks more effortless or more put together than you, your nervous system registers that as a threat. Am I enough? Am I falling behind? What's wrong with me? Or why isn't that me? That loop, or that thought loop, it's subtle, but it compounds fast. And most women are just running on a daily basis all day, every day, without even realizing it. So get intentional about your feed, okay? Unfollow anything that makes you feel worse after viewing it, not because it's bad content, but because the comparison it triggers is costing you more than the content is actually worth. And if you're someone who creates content like me, build real boundaries about when you create, when you consume, when you're just not on your phone entirely. Because when, again, these lines get blurred and there are no boundaries, that is where we start to run into trouble. Boundaries is a big theme here, is a big solution to a lot of these environmental triggers that we're chatting about. And then the last one that I just wanted to throw in here, trigger number 7, because again, like I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, I'm currently going through a detox protocol, and detoxing in my environment has been a really big piece of that. Trigger number 7 is the chemical load in your home and in your self-care products. This is the one that kind of is an outlier to all the other triggers that we've talked about so far, but it might be the biggest one that you need to address. It's something that you're being exposed to every single day, and it's accumulating over time, having a direct impact on your hormones. A lot of these products that we have in our homes, or that we use on our skin or on our face or on our bodies, have endocrine disruptors. So your endocrine system is your hormone communication system. It produces, it releases, it regulates all the hormones in your body, and disruptors are chemicals that interfere with that system directly by mimicking natural hormones, by binding to hormone receptors in your body and either triggering a response that they shouldn't be or blocking the response that should be. And the result is dysregulated hormone signaling. And again, this happens consistently and cumulatively over years of daily exposure to these things. And And these chemical products are coming from the fragrances in your candles, the laundry detergent, your fabric softener, your perfume, your plastic food containers, your moisturizer, your shampoo, your body wash. Like, it can feel overwhelming to start to tackle this all at once, but slow and steady. Focus on one thing at a time. Focus on, I would say, the things that you use every day, the things that are easy swaps. Like for me, that's been my body wash, my shampoo and conditioner. That was the first thing that I shifted over. I'm slowly currently transitioning over my makeup. That one's been a hard one because makeup is I'm very picky about my makeup and what stays on me, what feels good on me, and what looks good on me. My deodorant has been switched for a while. I only use glass Tupperware containers, and we shifted over our pots and pans a little bit when we moved at the end of last year. So just slow and steady changes that over time. It doesn't have to happen right away, but it will play a huge role in decreasing the chemical load in your environment. That will help. Just when we're talking about the load, these chemicals are adding to that bucket that is your capacity. And so if we can take away some of this chemical burden from your bucket, it is inherently going to help give you more capacity for other things. So yeah, 6 or 7-ish triggers. This isn't necessarily what we typically talk about, where it's not about food, it's not about exercise, but the thing that I want you to take away from this episode is that healing your hormones and your metabolism isn't just a nutrition and exercise conversation. It is also about your environment. And until your environment changes, the body has no real reason to feel safe to start healing. A lot of the work that I do with my clients is exactly this, because when we look at your labs and we look at your lifestyle, when we look at the full picture together, you can see that hormone dysfunction. You can see it on paper, obviously, but you can also see what's actually causing that in your everyday life, habits, routines, and environment. So if this resonates with you, if you want to understand a little bit more about what this looks like for your hormones and for your lifestyle, DM me. Let's have a conversation on Instagram. The link, obviously, to work with me is directly in the show notes below. It is always there. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye.